Okay, everybody, welcome back to the BSC podcast. We've got a really awesome one for you guys. We have the legendary Lopez's that are literally I said that Steven was the Michael Jordan of Taekwondo last time. So I'm trying to think of a team. The only team that comes to mind, I guess, is the Bulls. Would be maybe a
Right.
good parallel. There you go.
I'm cool with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
We maybe Gene can be Phil Jackson and we'll go down the line.
Nice.
But
I'm
yeah,
not
so
Scottie Pippen. Don't put me as Scottie Pippen.
actually, that is perfect. That is perfect.
Oh, you
Or we'll
Dennis
go Dennis
Rodman, you mean,
Rodman.
Mark? Dennis Rodman.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. So we're just gonna explore you guys' mindsets, the coaching system that Gene pretty much looks like, came up with out of a garage, which is amazing. And then just basically the adversity you guys have come through, all the championships, everything you've done from A to Z, and the legacy that you guys have built. So let's first just kind of go into an introduction. We can start with Diana. If you just want to kind of give us a little bit of your accolades, your history in the martial arts, things like that.
So I started Taekwondo when I was about 7 years old. I won 10 junior championships, and then I made 4 junior national teams, won 2 junior worlds, 2-time Olympian, world champion, Olympic bronze medalist.
Awesome. And then we'll bounce over to Mark.
All right. Started Taekwondo when I was 5. Made several national teams. It was an honor to make the national team with Diana and Steven and Gene as our coach. I won a world championships, only the second male to do that in U.S. history, aside from Steven, and won an Olympic silver medal.
Awesome. And then Steven, we'll go to you, buddy.
All right. I started Taekwondo when I was 5 years old, following the footsteps of my older brother, Gene. Made the national team, the youngest, I believe, at 15 years old, made the junior team as well as the senior team at 15. Made 24 national teams, 5 Olympic games, Olympic teams, 5 world championship gold medals, 2 Olympic golds, bronze. And I had the pleasure of being on the national team with both my brothers, Gene and Mark, and Diana. So it was a good time.
Awesome. And then Gene, let's go to you, the one that pretty much influenced it all, man. We'd love to hear from you.
Sure. I was a late starter of martial arts at the age of 8. They all started at 5, or some of them like in the womb, my mom's womb, and they were already starting to kick. So, it just seems like looking back on it, that it feels like it was destiny. It was something that we were meant to do. So I started at 8 years old at a local Taekwondo school. It was advertised as karate because back then no one knew what Taekwondo was. People thought it was something different other than a martial art. So when I signed up, I realized, I saw a superhero right away. That was my Korean instructor, master instructor at the time. And thought, I fell in love with it right away. I thought he was a superhero. I wanted to do everything that he did, and wanted to break boards and do forms and kick and yell. And so that's what sparked my interest in martial arts. And my father was the one who was the visionary, who thought that martial arts would be good for myself being the firstborn, and for all my siblings to be able to help develop all the the characteristics that we all look for, and we want to look for in our kids, and to be able to develop. So I trained, or I practiced traditional Taekwondo for a lot of years, and then at 15 made the switch to being more competition focused, and made the junior national team. Back in the day, got to, was able to travel, got bit by the bug of traveling, and hopefully at that point I was looking forward to, traveling more. And so my aspiration was to make the national team someday. And I moved to the Olympic Training Center after that, then became a national team member for 4 years, won a world championship silver medal, and won 2 Pan American championships. And then from there, I at the time I was also coaching my siblings and a lot of neighborhood kids in the area that were interested in doing martial arts. And that's when I started to pursue my passion in coaching, and Started coaching on the national team back in '99, and I was a coach from 1999 for the United States, from 1999 through 2016 as being the head coach, and here we are now talking to you gentlemen on the BSC podcast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, Stephen kind of filled us in on how you guys started, training out of your garage. And I had always heard that, in the past, but he kind of went a little bit more in depth in regard to when you were at the Olympic Training Center, you were sending videotapes back to
That's
them.
right.
Is that the case? I mean, that takes some tenacity, man, to do that, especially back then. Nobody had an iPhone, you couldn't just whip it out and start filming things. And you actually physically had to record the tape to a VHS, physically go to a post office. I mean, you literally took that and ran with it, which I think is just awesome. So kind of walk us through like that whole system, Gene, like if you could call it the Lopez system, because you guys literally, if you think about it, is baptism under fire. You were bringing what you were finding, what worked, and bringing it back to them. You guys would all come collectively together and put it out into the world. So can you kind of go through that a little bit for us? Because I thought that was one of the most intriguing things. I even told Stephen, you need to write a book. So
Thank
let's
you,
hear it
Zach.
from you. Yeah.
Well, so I'll take you back a little bit. Being the firstborn, my parents, were first generation immigrants. So my parents are from Nicaragua, and they moved to the United States for, you know, to 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 establish a better life for my family and I. And my father was a huge martial arts enthusiast, and he put us into martial arts. And what he knew, the visionary that he is, he knew that whatever we did or decided to do, make sure that we did our best in doing it. And so he kind of mapped out, kind of a schedule first, to start with a schedule, and waking up in the mornings and training before going to school, even if it meant just training our forms and our different kicks. And then from there, we went to training more our kicks and being more proficient in our kicks. And then like I said, being the firstborn, he told me, hey, look, everything that you learn, make sure that you're teaching your younger siblings. And so I took that very seriously. And so we would be practicing in the garage, and and we would train there every single day, every single day. And I really did not know what I was really doing, per se, at 14, 13 years old. All I knew is that we were dedicated, and that we're focused, and we're our aspirations to be the best that we could be. And so fast forward a little bit, after the garage, literally a garage, because one of my good friends, his name is George Weisfish. He heard about the famous garage because he heard about all these people training in the garage, and he thought it was just like a clever, funny way to describe my program. And so when he came over to my parents' house and saw that it was actually a garage with oil stains and holes in the wall, he he literally goes, "Wait, this is a garage." I'm like, yeah, I said it was a garage. It was literally a garage. And so it was pretty funny. And then, so after that, I learned everything by trial and error, the slowest way of learning, but the most effective. So when we went to tournaments, if I made a mistake and got hit in the head, we need to go back to the drawing board and figure out what happened there. And so it developed a very analytical, mindset, to be able to look at every aspect of Taekwondo, and look at it from a true student's perspective. And also, by kind of like just the process, being a coach as well, by being the firstborn, and passing all the information down to my siblings. And so fast forward, I was identified as one of the top athletes in the United States, back when I was younger, and they selected me to become a resident at the Olympic Training Center. And at the time, the Olympic Training Center was the mecca for Taekwondo. That's where you learned everything about Taekwondo. Up to that point, everything was just by trial and error and just observing. So that was really the first time that that was supported by a professional coach and really showing me an understanding of what the process is in developing and being a world-class athlete. And then I had the opportunity to be able to then interface with a lot of the sports sciences at the Olympic Training Center, like biomechanics and sports physiology and sports psychology. And so for me, that was like heaven on earth. And we were able to practice on mats instead of the cement of the garage and have all the elements of AC and heater. And so for me, coming from the garage to the Olympic Training Center was just a dream come true. And I was a student of every single thing, every aspect, every opportunity that I got to learn. I made sure to learn. And so I would write down I would have a journal. I would journal all the things that I've learned. I videoed a lot of the things that I learned, and then I would send it via post mail. It sounds ridiculous now. I can't believe it looking back on it. It's a great question. I haven't even thought about it in so many years. But that's how the genesis of everything happened in putting a system in place where I was away from my siblings. Because that was a very hard thing for me to do, a very hard decision to make. Because I not only did I have my siblings, but I had a group of neighborhood kids who really aspired to be the best they could be too. And so there was a certain level of responsibility that I owed them to make sure that they were developing at the same rate as me, if not better, if not more. And so the idea was that if I'm going to be the pioneer, that everything that everyone learns from me is going to be that much better. And so that was kind of the beginning of the system that I learned to put together.
Have you ever heard of, who Sam Calavita is? I'm sure.
No, I'm
He's
sorry.
a
Isn't Sam the one that we trained with over here in college?
Coach Cal. They call him Coach Cal.
Coach Cal, yes, Coach
Yeah,
Cal,
yeah.
I
So
love that.
he literally has all his athletes out of a garage.
Yeah.
And when Steven was telling that story, I wanted to bring it up, but I kind of forgot about it as we kept going in the conversation, Steven. But it reminded me of that.
Yeah.
I always thought Coach Cal was the first to do it out of the garage. Well, no, Gene Lopez was the first to do it out of the garage.
That's right.
So-
Yeah.
He's awesome. He's Coach Cal's an amazing
Oh, he is
guy.
phenomenal.
I mean, he pays attention to all the details, and that's why he's such a great coach for the wrestling. All the MMA guys who are going to him now.
Yeah, I mean, him even going further down the chain of drawing your blood,
Yeah.
finding out your blood type, what you are allergic to, what you're deficient and efficient in. And it's like all those things make up such a big difference on how you feel as an athlete training. It may
Yeah.
not make a huge difference in regard to the day of performance, but the training, you get a couple more notches in your belt training in that way,
Well, you don't win the day of the competition. You win in the training.
Exactly. There you go.
And the difference is, sometimes between first place at the Olympics and, losing your first match are those, inches, right? And so you do everything you can to control the controllables. And so I think Coach Cal does everything he can to find all the variables and put them together to get you in the best shape possible. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's top notch.
Yeah.
So Mark, Diana, and Steven, when he's telling the story in regards to, the genesis of everything, what kind of emotions come up and spark in that? Because I mean, it truly is the genesis. If he wasn't doing that, who's to say what else you guys would have went into? So in you guys can talk amongst yourselves. You don't have to, wait until I call you out, but how does that make you guys feel?
Marky, go ahead. You can go first.
Sure. Yeah. So Gene telling it, and detailing what we experience, and talking about the garage, it's amazing how at the time when we're training, it felt like just an everyday thing. It didn't seem abnormal, but Gene explaining it the way he did and just reflecting on the time we had training together in the garage, it's crazy. And it's amazing what we're able to accomplish from that little garage. And it's just your standard garage sized two car garage. And I remember during the winter times, my mom would put the heater on just to warm up the space so we can be somewhat comfortable.
Dryer.
Dryer.
Oh, I'm sorry. What'd I say?
Heater.
Heater, yeah, the dryer, which
Yeah, we
No,
didn't have
heater
like
would have been
we
awesome.
didn't have a
That's a
mini
level
split
up.
in the garage. or
yeah,
anything.
Yeah,
it
the heater
acted
would have
as the
been an
heater.
upgrade. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Oh,
it acted as a heater, and
Yeah.
it was Spartan training, and I loved it.
I remember being too young to train with my brothers when they first started in the garage, and I would just sit there and watch, hoping one day they're like, "Come on, Diana, come train with us," because I was the only girl, I was the youngest, and I think that drove me to become who I did, just because they're like, soon, Diana, soon, like, come on, sis, just sit down. So I just remember in the summer times, my mom and I would make, I know it's bad now, but the Lipton iced tea
Oh,
and
yeah.
country time lemonade, I would, go out there with my mom and bring that out to them. Those are some of the good memories, but I do
That was
remember.
so delicious. Thank you, Diana.
I do remember my brother leaving to Olympic Training Center, and those were, one of my saddest times because my brother was like, you know, he's 10 years older than me, but he was like my best friend. And I remember him driving off in the red Honda Civic, and I'm like, oh no, don't leave me, Gene. Now Steven's gonna, pick on me, and I don't have my savior. No, but those are great memories. I mean, and then I did, was invited to train with them, and I felt like I was the coolest, girl on the block.
Yeah, Stephen went on to tell us last time, that he didn't take it easy on you.
Oh no, no,
Yeah.
none of it.
Yeah, actually, Diana, not that long ago when we got together, she had she expressed to Jean in front of me that Jean leaving for the Olympic Training Center was one of the saddest moments of her life. I'm like, really? I never knew that. And I guess yeah, Jean's, like I mentioned to you guys in our last podcast, Jean's always been a great older brother. He never really, except a couple of times I can remember, never abused his role as the older brother. He was a great brother, and Mark and I, we we would pick on, just like siblings pick on Diana or pick on, on her, and so I guess she looked to Gene as, my older brother's going to protect me from my other brothers, and so. But it's funny that Diana just mentioned that like a month ago. I had no idea. It's funny that she brings it up again to you guys.
I do remember giving him, I don't know, it's so odd, right? How holding those the lucky rabbit
rabbit foot?
foot. I remember giving him one of those, but I'm like, now thinking back, I'm like, that's kind of weird, right? Those rabbit feet.
It is weird, yeah, but there's a lot of things that take off that, but rabbit foot back in the day was a thing to
That
have.
was
Yeah, they were
cool.
like a huge deal. You have one of those little guys.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. That's like giving your favorite toy away, your lucky charm.
Mhm.
No, the next question I had, Gene, was in regards to the system that you did bring back. I mean, essentially, they were, well, let me ask this. How do I frame this? So when you went through the ranks, did you get your initial black belt from the person that you had started with previously? And
Yes,
then,
I did.
and then with these three, did you rank them up? Or
That's
how
right.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
well, yeah. So we all got our black belts and from our our original master instructor.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, and then we continued testing with him. But and then there was a point where we wanted to pursue more of the Olympic side, more the sports side of things, and that's where we kind of branched off, and that's when we completely focused on the competition side of things. Yeah.
Gotcha. And did you like create any type of syllabus or anything like that that you guys would run, work from, or was it just kind of doing what works, going with the flow, ebb and flowing through everything else? How did you have an actual system? Like, I guess what if I was to put it this way, if you were to go back right now, could you duplicate that system? Obviously you have with the athletes that you brought, but could you duplicate that system, put it into say a box and give it to somebody?
Right. So uh, I felt very, very confident after I made the national team, and the feedback that, for me, the ultimate test was to see everything that I've learned, and being able to have the opportunity to be able to see if what I was doing was actually working. And so after winning, and being pretty successful internationally for the time, being one of the best athletes in that time period, it gave me a lot of confidence to know that everything that I've been training and everything that I've been learning uh, was working. And so then what I did was continue to learn every aspect of the sport. I was one of the first ones to be able to get exposed to all these different disciplines of that would help with with uh, with the performance side of Taekwondo. And so, I mean, I went to Korea, I traveled all over the world, and was able to see all the different systems and what was working and was not working at the time. Korea was, the best country in the world, in being the ones who introduced the martial arts to the world. And so I went there lots of times to learn from them. And that's actually where I really felt uh, the point of departure of what I was learning versus what they've been practicing for so many years. And so right there, I made the mental shift that we had to have the mindset of being able to respect the traditional aspect of Taekwondo, but also, understand that in sports you have to evolve. And that was like a very important moment for me to be able to understand their more traditional cookie cutter system versus a system that I was developing that had to be different. It had to be creative. You had to be creative. You had to be
Innovative.
innovative, and understand uh, w- what we can do to be able to not just catch up to the Koreans, but to be able to surpass them. And that was the goal. And that was a huge. I mean, that was almost like heresy at the time to say, because the Koreans were expected to win. And if you thought that you could beat the Koreans, then it was you were you're an alien. You were speaking another language. No one would think that you would be able to beat a Korean systematically. Some athletes may win once in a while, but it was more, man, kind of lucky. They had a good day. What we wanted to do was not only win, but to dominate. And so fast forward, when I was in Korea, like, for instance, one of the things that that they taught me, and one of the first things, and I was writing all this down, was I'm left-legged naturally, so I'm like what they call goofy stance in snowboarding. Um, and so the over there when I was training, they would always tell me, switch my stance, and have my right leg back. And so I saw every single Korean, fighting the same exact way. And that was like one of those things, like another moment that just kind of sparked and go, okay, well, they don't like it. Um,
There's a reason they don't like
there's
it.
a reason why they don't like it. Okay, well, there's the traditional part. What can I do innovatively? And so
Yeah.
that's an example of one of the many, many things that I was able to really study and see what could propel us. Because we also the other part that I needed to really do is establish an identity for the United States, and be able to brand what USA Taekwondo is. And because we didn't have an identity, there was nothing that we could really say this is our style. And that to me was kind of was difficult to really understand and wrap my mind around. And so with that vision and that perspective, I was able to then kind of that's what formulated, my program. That's what organized everything. And so um, I, when I opened my Taekwondo school, the one that you went to, Zach, what year was
Yeah.
that? What year was that?
2024, 25, or I mean, I'm sorry, 2004, 05.
Right. Yeah. So that was like right after Athens, where Stephen won his
Yeah.
second Olympic Games,
Yeah.
right? And so you saw the school, so
Yeah,
that
it was awesome.
yeah, that was our school at the time was called Elite Taekwondo. And so when I was when I opened my school after I left the Olympic Training Center, that's when, I was talking to, my siblings and about 10 other athletes. That were all like 10, 11, 13, because I opened my school up in 1997,
Six.
1996. Yeah. And so they're all young. They're all young kids, and so just imagine having a group of kids who, the only thing they want to do back in the day is to play Nintendo, telling them, hey, look, we're going to have the best program in the world. This is what we're going to do. And not only are we going to have the best program, but we're going to dominate. And so uh, that was the vision. That's what I believed in 100%. I thought to myself, if I can get to a certain level, basically teaching myself, then if I'm able to then extrapolate everything that I've learned as an athlete, that I could implement it as a coach and develop the best program. And so that's what started it all. And so that's the long question. I mean, the long answer to your question. But yes, I really knew that we could duplicate it, and that we could actually do what I set, that we were going to do.
It reminds me almost in a sense of how Bruce Lee challenged, the traditional arts. Wouldn't you say, James, that kind of reminds you that, how he challenged basically the tradition, saying, don't be bound by tradition, it's holding you back.
Well, that actually is funny you bring that up, because my question to Gene was, you said in the middle of that, when you arrived there, you put your left side forward and they wanted you right-sided. Now, Kempo karate is primarily a right-handed system. When you learn Silat traditionally, they give you everything off a right hand. So was Taekwondo traditionally thought as a right-sided system, primarily right leg forward? And
right leg. So yeah,
right
so
leg back.
right leg back, and you would put your left leg back. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
That's
correct.
his power leg.
So that I get from the PowerPoint. Why did they say that though? Why was it not okay for you to use your left? Have your left leg behind. Was that just a traditional thing, or they couldn't deal with it, or was it to control you?
No, I believe because the first time I went to Korea, oh man, it was rough, man. Like it's not like what it is today. Today it's like, it's amazing to go, and we have a great time, whatever. But I was going there for a different reason, right? So I went to this university called Yongin, and it's up like really high in the mountains, and really, really cold. And you had you had the opportunity to take a warm shower like 15 minutes a day. Otherwise, the water felt like you were really going to a cold plunge. And so I was doing contrast contrast therapy before it was even a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so in all that hardship and everything, I was getting also an understanding of the mindset of what made the Koreans the Koreans. And so when they were instructed at first, they were really hesitant in teaching me anything. I was just kind of there, just kind of trying to figure things out. And then once they saw that, I was there to stay, and, I had a certain level of tenacity, and that I was also, sparring the guys pretty tough. I knew that, in one program, they may have about 70, 80 people training, 5, 6 times a day. And so, I did all the training. I made sure to do my very best, and little by little they started to kind of open up. So the way that they were teaching me, I felt that when they were switching my stance, I felt that they were really telling me, hey, you gotta do it like the way we do it. It was more from that standpoint. This is what works. And so I took that as, oh man, okay, yeah, okay, great, but maybe it may not work if I switch my stance and see how it may prove to be a very difficult thing for you to be able to deal with, because you're used to the other stance. And so I felt that the motivation was just more that's what they knew, and that's they're following the traditional model. And and that's that. And anytime I tried it out while I was there, anytime I did go back with my left leg, it made it feel it gave me a little bit of a different feel and a different look that I really felt that they were uncomfortable with. And so the good thing about the Koreans is that they do have a system that was dominant for so many years, and still, one of the best, countries in the world. However, I did sense that that it was disruptive. And so from our standpoint, one of the things that I understood about combative sports, and especially in Taekwondo, that rhythm is a very important thing. And so because we didn't have the pedigree that the Koreans had, where they're training Taekwondo in a system since they're born, everything that we were learning, we learned the traditional aspect first, and then converted into the sports side of it. That those are all the things that I was really looking into as a way to develop what I felt was going to win. So yeah, so I feel like their motivation was more that it was traditional versus anything real nefarious at that time.
Well, narrow-mindedness, like Jack just said, Bruce Lee kind of challenged the establishment, and you were challenging it probably without even thinking about it. Now, are all you guys, and anybody can feel free to answer this, are all you guys left-legged, left side?
I'm definitely left-legged. Yeah.
Mark?
Yeah, I definitely had my favorites of when I used what kick.
Which leg?
Yeah, which leg I would
Yeah.
use for what technique.
All right,
I
Diana.
I was usually right leg back all the time.
Yeah, Diana, a question for you, being a lady, and the physics are different. Did you find what worked for your brothers in competition? You had a tougher time making it work, or it just was the same, again, the same technique, the same sort of thing against the female?
So the only thing that I can say training with men that I obviously I was tougher, mentally tougher, physically. I love training. So I definitely got my reps of technique down. The only thing I can say is training against men was second guessing myself when I was competing against women, because my brothers or all the other guys would do some defensive technique to my offense where I'm like, whoa. And Gene would always have to remind me, Diana, none of these girls are gonna, have the same defense as these guys. So you have to, just make sure you go for it, because no one's gonna respond, no one's gonna be quicker, no one's gonna be stronger than any of your training partners. So that's the only thing that I think made it different training with the guys. Just thinking, oh, if I do this technique, the guy's gonna, or the girl's going to do some,
Counter.
Counterattack.
some counterattack, which never happened.
Yeah.
Gene,
Yeah,
was
so-
the standard of was the standard of women's taekwondo? How was it compared to men at that point?
I would say they had more success than the men. They were really bringing home medals, more medals than the men.
Why was that, in your opinion?
I think it wasn't as developed. The focus wasn't so much on females as it is now. But when I started my program, one of the things I told all the female athletes said, I don't see male and females here. I see athletes. And so that's kind of like, it was also a different approach, to the mindset of female athletes as well. You know what you asked, Diana, was a very good question, because one of the things, men at that time uh, would fight a little bit cleaner, a little bit more technical. And so what would disrupt, and Diana, what she was talking about was that it would disrupt her rhythm a little bit, not to see the technique in a particular way. And so it was a little bit messy. And so we always had to remind Diana, listen, just remember, you got to be a little bit, messy with your fight. You don't be too clean, because when you're looking for a beautiful, clean technique, then you may not react or respond, like the way that you'd want to. And so that's a difficult, challenge for a female athlete, training with men, back in those times, and even now, I believe.
One thing that Stephen had brought up in our conversation last time is your ability to coach them, knowing on what they needed as an athlete at that time, under the circumstance or under the pressure. I thought what would be kind of cool is, can you walk us through, both coaching Diana, Mark, and Stephen, the differences, the touch bases that you went through, if there was a tough match or compare, just, in general.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I'm sure you can understand one of the principles in my coaching that really set me apart from others is understanding that everyone sees the world in a different way, even your siblings. And that's the part that that I learned. Again, culturally in Korea, it's a little bit different. Everyone focuses on everything the same way, and it's trying to achieve the same perspective. And if you do anything that's not aligned with that, it's seen as disruptive. And so I went the complete opposite approach. I went more, let's focus on what makes the individual, understanding what motivates them, what unmotivates them, what gets them to perform, and understand what things could possibly can taint their perspective on their approach when it comes to pressure. And so I individualized my program, and that went with even my siblings, who we have the same mother, father, and we eat the same food, we raised the same way. But the difference between the way that Stephen was seeing it versus Mark versus Diana was something that I intuitively understood, that it was different. And so I had to coach them according to what I felt, is the way that they were seeing the reality of pressure and Olympic sport and at that level. So for Stephen, he was more of an athlete that understood intuitively what he needed to do. He was very coachable, very, very coachable. But the trust that I had in him and the faith that I had in him gave him the confidence. It amplified the confidence that he already brought to the mat. When it came down to like the very, very, very difficult decisions to make in between rounds, where you're sitting down and going, okay, Steve, all right, we're tied. We're in the finals at the World Championships against Korea. What's the call going to be? Because at the time, if you were tied, you would go into extra rounds, and they would call it sudden death, and then the person who scored the first point would be the winner. And so when it came down to that, I was the one who had to make the decision as to what we were going to go with. I would give him different options, and then I'll go, look, Steve, this is what I'm seeing. I see this, this, and this. And Steven goes, I like that. I'm like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. And so that was my approach with Stephen. And then as he got as he was maturing more as an athlete, I became less of an authoritative coach, and more of a synergistic, kind of colleague. And and then understood that once he's, hit a certain, level, that now I just became more of a manager of perspective, and a manager of emotions, and a manager of expectations. And so that's with Steven. And then Mark, I don't know if you guys know who Steve Prefontaine is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
runner.
Yeah. A runner who kind of did things his way.
Yeah.
And he was going to win that way, or he was going to lose that way. I mean, that's him, and that's what made him amazing. And but also sometimes it could be challenging. And so Mark was more that of a fighter. He wanted to do it his way, and so I had to pull the reins a lot with Mark because he was so talented, and he had so many different weapons, that he focused more on the stylistic side of fighting, as opposed to the actual winning. However, I mean, he won a lot. I mean, I'm speaking from a whole different level of accomplishment. I mean, we're talking about a silver medalist, and a world champion. However, that was his personality. He just loved to put on a show. He loved to win, with flair. He wanted to win with style. And Steven was more about the winning was more important than the style. So more substance based. That's
I
not to
remember
say
the
that,
flashier stuff came from Mark for sure.
yeah,
The
yeah.
Benz, the Autobahns. I always remember that. Yeah.
Right. And it's not to say that, he didn't have a, game that he really, focused on and make sure to try to stick to, but he, when it came down to it, he was going to do what he wanted to do. And Steven was more, this is, they both want to win, but they want to win in different ways. Steven was more like, hey, this is the game plan, and, I'm going to stick to it because I know it wins. And so stylistically, their approach was, different. So I had to coach them differently. So with Mark, I was a little bit more, hey, Mark, let me pull the reins on you, dude. I don't want you to, throw anything crazy right now. And I saw in his look that he wanted to throw something crazy. So, I had to kind of, calm him down a little bit on that. Diana, it was the most technical of the, my brothers. Very technical, beautiful Taekwondo. I at the time, to be able to say that, if the Koreans were the platinum standard at the time, Diana would fit in and plug in as far as from a technical standpoint. Very technical, very strategic, and very coachable. With her, it was like playing PlayStation or some kind of console of game, because it was really, okay, Diana, we're going to do this, and then after that we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and follow up with that. And Diana would do it exactly that way. And so that's just to tell you, like, a little bit of a insight, as to the way that I would coach them differently. All siblings, but coach them and approach them in different ways. Even the way they were motivated. Steven liked less motivation. Sometimes I got riled up, and he would go, "Gee, man, that's a little bit too much, man. Come on."
That's
coach."
what he stated on the last podcast. He said
Did
the
he
exact
really?
same thing. Yeah,
he
he
really?
said the exact same thing. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the truth. And then I would take that feedback and go, okay, well, that's a little bit too much. Okay. And so that helped, that was, I didn't really take it personal. I understood that, I'm there for them, and that was another, kind of breakthrough from a coaching standpoint, from my history, or the way that what I was used to. It was more coach centric as opposed to athlete centric. And so that was also one of the pillars that I established in my coaching program, that it was athlete centric, and it's not about the coach, that was coach driven, but athlete centered. And so so those are the things that, that I was very, very mindful. And then with Mark, he was he was a little bit more like he would get really sleepy before fights, and so he would deal with pressure a little bit more like completely opposite, where he was just kind of relaxed a little bit, but he would go a little bit too far with it. And so I had to give him a little bit of a longer warm up before his competition, and would have to talk to him a little bit more. He was a little bit more energy, kind of give me some energy, man, because I need to plug in. And so, I'm sorry.
And he's going to feed off of it.
Yeah, feed off of it. And so he liked that a little bit more. And Diana, it was a little bit of a hybrid. Sometimes, she would go out there and she was, self-motivated and go out there and do her thing. And there are other times that I had to, be a little bit more involved as far as the energy and being able to get them in the right mindset before they fought or in between rounds.
One of the coolest things I remember is, I think it was more like probably nationals and US Opens and things where, we shared the mat together. I would notice when you guys had anybody that was fighting on elite, everybody was around if they could be there. And that was one of the coolest things to watch, is like when you guys traveled through from, say somebody on your team was fighting, everybody saw it. Everybody knew that you guys had somebody that was about to battle because you guys were all there. Can you guys elaborate on that? I'm sure that was something that you definitely, wanted to go down. Because I mean, even then, that's got a little bit of a psychological aspect on the other athlete as well, right? I mean, this kid may only have a coach standing behind him. Everybody else is kind of out doing their own thing. You guys are traveling as an entire team almost every single time that you have a big fight coming up.
Yeah.
Anybody want to jump on that?
Marky or
Diana?
Go ahead, Steve-O.
No,
Well-
I mean, oh, Steven, go. I think we just wore elite with so much pride that that was, Gene always told us it's not only you in the ring, it's all of us in the ring with you. So that gave us like an extra boost of power and energy, that a superpower kind of going against that opponent. So it's true. It wasn't just me out there. It was all of us competing, and if we lost, it was all of us losing too. So it was such a great experience, such a great feeling to be in the ring knowing that everyone has your back.
Yeah, and we had this I guess culture of, if one of us win, we all win, and also fighting more than, I think I mentioned this on the last time we spoke, but fighting for more than just yourself. And when you fight for something bigger than just yourself, then I think that gives you more intention. It pushes you more than you normally would. Kind of like I think I mentioned, when you're running or you're training by yourself, or you're running and training with somebody next to you, you're going to push a little bit more. And so we always train, for God, country, family, teammates. And so, and of course, there was that other element that each and every time you step in the ring with somebody from our gym, that it was going to be a fight. And so we brought that energy, and it was something that it pumped us up individually, but also I knew it had an effect on the other guy on the other side of the ring, knowing that, damn, they're coming stacked, they're coming.
They're a mafia walking through right now. They got their whole squad.
We roll
Yeah.
deep, Steven.
We roll deep. That's right.
Yep. No, that's awesome. Do you have anything to add to that, Mark?
No, just that was such an awesome feeling. Like the referee tells you Chudyat Kunye, and then you hear everybody's like ETC, ETC, and you're just like, yeah, I got this. So that was so awesome.
Let me ask you a
I touched on the other day, that's why I think a lot of the magic came from when we would travel internationally. It would be so foreign, and you'd be in another country, and everything's different. The language, the food, I mean, everything. And so knowing that you have so many of I have as my teammates, my siblings, I have as my coach, my brother, that I always felt that you have that home court advantage. And that's why a lot of the teams, do well when they play at home. And so no matter what country I was in, I imagined and visualized and felt as if I was competing in my gym. And that's what the kind of mentality that Gene always kind of told us. When you're training at the gym, you're not training at the gym. you have to put yourself visually or mentally, you're at the Olympic Games, you're at the World Championships. When you're kicking a paddle or heavy shield, you're not kicking a paddle or a heavy shield. You're kicking, that one kick is the score, the one kick that you need in order to win the match. And so when you fight with that intention and you have that kind of, you're not just training your body, you're training your mind, you're training your spirit. And so when we go in there, I was like, I felt I was at home. And every time I stepped into that mat, it was my home. And like I mentioned, how dare you step in there in the ring with me and take away what I've worked so hard, to accomplish.
So, Gene, when you were coaching your siblings, take us through a coaching period. So you got a championship coming up, whether it be a local championship, whether it be a US championship, a world championship, whatever. Just take us through that program. What did it consist of, and how did you conduct it?
Right. So, at the Olympic Training Center, it was more, as an athlete, or my athletic career, it was more of a grind. It was like more like survival of the fittest kind of a thing. And if you made it to a competition without being injured, that was a success. And then hope, that when you go to competition, that everything kind of comes together. But what I learned from other sports, and what I learned from the sports sciences when I was at the Olympic Training Center, that there's other ways of approaching it. And that's when I was exposed and started to understand what periodization meant, which is basically just a funny, a fancy word of just having a training plan, and making sure that training plan, at the end of it, where your athlete was peaking at the right time, and being able to have the rest and recovery needed to be able to go out there and give it your best. And so that was more of a predictable model for me, and I felt like that was the way to go. And so, for a local tournament, like, I wouldn't have my top tier athletes compete at local tournaments. So that was part of the variables that would plug into my training plan. And a lot of times, maybe even nationals wasn't, something that they would compete in. Like for Steven, less is more. Mark would need maybe a little bit more, and Diana would probably need a little bit more, because they're more the athletes that need to stay a little bit more busy. Um, but for a nationals, or let's say, okay, so a local tournament, we wouldn't compete in at this level. But for my developmental athletes, I would have them go to as many local tournaments as possible. And then for my national level athletes, then, compete as many regional or national competitions as possible, and go to different opens. And then for my top tier athletes to be a little bit more selective as to what competitions to compete in. That was the model back then, because we had one major competition or two per year, versus, now where everyone's competing, pretty consistently. But for me, it was more important to make sure that my athletes were nicely, the plan was designed where they would peak out for whatever tournament that we felt was the most important tournament of the year. All the other tournaments were just kind of feeders and leading up to that major tournament. And that would give me the feedback as to what I needed to adjust in my training plan, for them to be at their very best.
Now,
That's a great question.
a lot of coaches today, whether it be boxing, taekwondo, martial arts in general, whatever it is, grappling, for example, James Toney was like, I don't hit bags, I don't hit speedballs, I don't hit the floor to ceiling ball. And clearly he didn't diet much either. He said, all you need to be one of the best fighters in the world is just go in and spar, spar, spar. That's literally the closest thing. You can hit bags all day. You can do this. You can hit pads. It's not a fight. What's your thoughts on that? And did you ever attribute that to some athletes opposed to others, where you just say, okay, obviously they have the skill set to begin with. We're not talking about somebody at a white belt level. Did you find that if you just You have the rules of your competition. You go in, you say, okay, I'm sparring. You're going to spar. And that's how you're going to get good at this. And you're going to spar a bunch of different people, tall people, fast people, fat people, thin people, every kind of an opponent. Or were you more of, well, I'm going to give him X amount of deadlifts, is going to give him power here, I'm going to do this and that, and we're going to do the other things.
Right.
Which one do you favor, and what's your opinion on that?
It depends on the athlete. It really does. And it depends of assuming that they're all world-class athletes. There's so many things can go wrong in sparring, so many things. And so for me, the focus was more on if I would take you through a simple, periodization plan or a training plan, all the aerobic capacity work, all the long distance running, the endurance, focused training would be done as the base. And then that would be like let's say if we had a 3-month period to get ready for a tournament or for the tournament that really mattered. And then followed up with with strength and conditioning. And then we would on top of that work on different techniques that they need to learn or they need to add. And that would be like in the first month. And then a lot of sparring, heavy on sparring. And then the second month, we would tune up, and get a little bit more sport specific. We would do a lot. The base that we had done prior would allow me to push my athletes to be able to do all the technical stuff or all the speed training that we needed to do, whether it's on paddles or bags. And then as we got closer to competition, then it would become more of a rehearsal. It would be more focused on, okay, these are the guys that, the top guys, and the top guys are doing X, Y, and Z. Okay, what's your answer? Let's put you in that situation, and we would rehearse it over and over and over and over and over again. I felt that by simulating those components, that the risk factor of my athletes getting injured would decrease significantly. And because being a contact sport, it's there's so many variables, so many things that could go wrong. And for us, it's, we train a lifetime for one day, and that being the Olympics, right? And for us to go there injured would be the worst case scenario. And so I had to be very, very diligent and very focused on making sure that everything that we're doing in our training isn't hurting our athletes, that it's improving our athletes and getting them peaked out for the right competition.
But yeah, that second month we would fight a lot.
A lot.
I mean,
Yeah.
a lot. We would have one person staying up. I would fight. I remember I was cutting weight and I would fight, and then I had 4 or 5 guys. I would fight 1 minute with this guy. This guy goes out. Another guy fresh 1 minute. Another guy fresh 1 minute, and those guys didn't take it easy. And one of them was my little brother Mark, and he was the last guy that I remember Gene putting up against me. And I'm like, damn, dude, I'm getting my butt whipped by my little brother. But that's the kind of training that we would do. So if there's any injuries, bumps, or bruises, that we have plenty of time to heal. And then there would be some times where we have mock competitions where, we do no training. And then, everyone's putting their checks to help everything. We have referees, we have judges, and so to imagine, and you felt the pressure, even though it was just at our Taekwondo school, we felt, and we did everything as if it was the world championships. And so that also helped us with the rehearsal of feeling the chest, or feeling those nerves, is because we all focused as if this is a competition, and the winner of that is the winner of the competition. So
Yeah, they even played background noise, like a crowd.
yeah, that's
That's
right.
so
To
innovative.
simulate.
That is
Mhm.
so smart, sports psychology wise.
That's Gene. Gene was the
that
genius of it.
That
That's
is
an
genius.
interesting thing, because I did this with a client of mine a couple of weeks ago. So he just learns basically self-defense. And as you know, self-defense is not about being technically excellent. It's about a whole bunch of other things. And of course, if you're technically excellent, it doesn't hurt. So what I did was I turned on the music and I cranked it up. It was just music. And it blew his mind. He couldn't function. Just the fact that there was the sound distraction. But it's interesting you bring that up, because it's easy to be focused when it's kind of very mellow and calm and no noise. All of a sudden, there's all these little distractions, whether they're visual or they're hearing. It does make a difference. It makes you focus a lot more. Yeah, that's
Very
it.
situational. That's what's awesome about it. Because I remember specifically when you just brought that up, Stephen, about how you guys would like go over certain situations. I remember we played a game on one of the last days when I was training with you guys, Gene, where you had us in the circled around, and it was a sudden death situation. So literally, if somebody scored on you, you stay in
Mhm.
until you're the person that gets, the score. And
Yeah.
I remember that. And that was fun as hell because I'd never done anything like that in my training before, So I love that. Very
Yeah.
innovative.
Yeah. It's awesome, and, the mind, that's really, was, or is, the focal point, because, your body will follow, right? And man, my first sports psychologist was my mom. I don't know if Stephen, talked to you about that, but she was our first sports nutritionist and sports psychologist, and brilliant. I mean, would never give us any kind of way outs, no excuses, kind of a, tough love, but nurturing at the same time. It was amazing how she balanced both. But she would tell us all the time, look, don't let your body control you. You control your body, and we heard that since we were little, and as we got older, we understood more and more what that really meant. That you have to be the governor of your actions, and be able to. That the biggest obstacle is our mindset, and you could be you can create any situation. You can make the ordinary extraordinary. You can make the extraordinary and tailor it down to it be another day at work. Um, and that helps, in competition, because at the Olympics, the last thing you want, your athletes are already, pre-stimulated, and a lot of times overstimulated. The last thing you want to do is overcoach them. Um, because they're at the Olympics, it's already, all the pageantry that goes with the Olympics. That's the time to go, hey, this is nothing new, for us, at any given day in my club and my program, you can have two Olympians, training side to side or sparring each other, or in my family, two world champions fighting each other, Mark and Steven. It's just not brothers, it's two world champions fighting each other. And so we were kind of like we were kind of viewed like when I see the Dagestani guys, like Khabib
Oh
and
yeah.
those
Yeah.
guys, uh,
You guys have the same presence. Yeah.
thank you for saying that, because that's when I see those guys, I'm like,
Mhm.
that looks very familiar.
Yeah.
That's the mindset, I mean, I would tell people, hey, bring your kid down to Houston and leave him there for a few years, and I'll make him a national team member, or a world class, champion. So I remember that, and so and now all the memes where they're saying, you bring your athlete to Dagestan or Dagestan,
2 3 years and forget about
and
it.
then forget about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so it was very similar, because you knew that when you were training over there, that the training was going to be more difficult than the competition, and that was by design. And all my athletes actually couldn't wait to compete, because that was basically the prize, the opportunity to be able to go out there and really test themselves and see all their hard work and come to fruition.
I think one thing that keeps popping out at me, I know, Stephen, you said it a couple times in the last interview, is control the controllables. And I've heard that before, and I can't remember where I've heard it, but when Stephen, when you said it last time, and I'm hearing it through here, that's just so damn true with anything, right? I mean, not just with martial arts and sports, but in life, control the controllables and and your life will be better, right?
Yeah, and get out of your own way.
Yes.
A lot of times because of the noise, I mean, we second guess ourselves, we doubt ourselves, and man, just give yourself the best opportunity. Just get out of your own way, and and I think that's what Gene was mentioning with my mom, that knowing that I remember going to the garage, I could see my breath because it was so cold out there. And I'd be like, Mom, it's cold. And she goes, No, it's not. Tell yourself it's cold. I go, Mom, I can see my own breath. It's not cold. I mean, it's cold. And so, but it really laid for us and the mind and how strong the mind is, and don't allow, like Gene was saying, don't allow your body to dictate to you what you can accomplish. And the other thing is to control your emotions. Don't Emotions are amazing. Being angry, it could be something that fuels you, or something that takes you away where all you see is red. And so, just being able to focus those emotions in the way that's going to empower you, great. But if it's going to be something, an emotion that's going to take away from you, then get rid of those emotions. And so that's something that my mother really instilled in us, and my father is just give it us insight to what the body is able to do, and that we had no idea. Like, for example, I remember my dad when he was doing bicep curls, for example, and he goes, look at your muscle and tell your muscle it's getting stronger, it's getting bigger. And I'm just listening to him, and okay. And so everything I did when I was doing squats or doing kicks, I was like, oh man, I'm getting stronger, I'm getting faster. I'm mentally rehearsing and just doing that self-talk. And now science is catching up that if you do tell yourself certain things, that it does make the body respond to what it is that you're thinking and saying to yourself.
Yeah, one of the things that separates my family and everyone else, and that was the genesis of it, is to do everything with to be intentional. And it's one of the things that we always say when we're doing our seminars, with everyone. Look, if you're going to throw a roundhouse kick, be intentional with it. Meaning, make sure that you're pivoting on your foot. Make sure you're turning your hips, you're turning your shoulders. You're visualizing how that kick is going to make the impact that you want it to make. And so what you're doing is kind of fast tracking and imprinting in your brain that you're just not simply just going through the motion, that you're really being intentional about that particular technique, and how that technique turns into skill when you put it into action, and where you yield the success of throwing that technique. And so understanding the technical aspect of it, and then the skill set aspect of it, it really comes down to intention, in everything you do. But to your point, Zach, everything that we're talking about, it has such broad applications. It really, and that's why the generalization of everything that you learn is what it's all about. Taekwondo happened to be our platform, but it was a laboratory of human psychology and our experience here, in living this life, and kind of figuring out all the nuggets of what what turns into success, and what things backfire on you. And we all know what the truth is. We just happen to have something that we did for a few decades to be able to reinforce the things that we learned and apply it to everyday life.
No, that's great. That leads me to my next question, because everything that you guys are talking about is a basic foundation that has to be built to succeed in anything. I mean, really. So let me ask you this, if let's all four of you, if Taekwondo didn't happen and there was another sport that you would have wanted to go into, let's just say you could take that same mindset you already have and you're going back to do it over. Would you guys get into probably the UFC or the MMA world of things? And if so, how do you think that you would compete?
Well, I'll go ahead. Actually, when I quote unquote retired from Taekwondo, I asked Steven if I should get into UFC, because I was watching it and I was like, man, this is such a cool sport. And looking at all these guys, and actually, you know, Daniel Cormier, is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Daniel Cormier.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I shared the sauna with him at the 2008 Olympics in Beijing, and I was in there with him and Henry Cejudo, and um, so sharing that experience with them and then seeing them succeed in UFC, I was like, man, that could be me or could have been me. So looking back, I would have had a lot of fun, I think, doing UFC. Um, but it's a great question because I was also think about golf, which is totally opposite. You don't hit anybody at all or take hits, but I see these guys traveling the world, making so much money. And I bet you if we applied the time and effort and mental toughness to golf, we would be up there with Tiger Woods and all those amazing players. And it's a sport that's I've tried it and it's super difficult. And I think we love challenging ourselves. And if golf is one of those most challenging sports, we would have applied the same, you know, attitude to that. And I think we could have been the first family of golf too.
Mark,
Yeah,
have
I
you been
agree.
golfing recently?
No, no, I play once a year for a charity, and I am horrible.
I remember them asking me always to do those like celebrity golf tournaments, and I always had to say no because I've never played. I don't want to be that guy that brings the team down. So I never did it. But
Yeah, it's tough. It's
I
because
would love to see more Taekwondo getting into the cage. You know, like you have some kickers. You had like Anthony Pettis. Anthony Pettis had a background in Taekwondo. I mean, he threw that roundhouse off the cage that was phenomenal. You know, Connor had some decent kicks, not so necessarily the greatest technique, but you know, he would throw them, which was pretty cool. Um, I would love to see a little bit more in there. And the thing that sucks that I'm always trying to explain to people is, you know, a lot of the times it has like a bad rep. It's like, oh, well, nobody in Taekwondo could do anything in regard to a cage. And it's like, no, you need to open your mind a little bit because if you could get some of these kicks in there, it would elevate so many different athletes
I
by
think
far because nobody's looking for it.
yeah, what I think what you're saying, Zach, I agree wholeheartedly. Um, I think what happened with the evolution of MMA and how it started, that it started with a certain level of a certain base, you know, wrestlers
Yeah.
and like Muay Thai, and so what happens is that becomes like the traditional model.
Yep.
And so just like with Taekwondo, you know, like there's a traditional model, but it's open for, you know, somebody coming in there and revolutionizing it. What I think separates Taekwondo from, or that would apply, and you know, we've worked with some, you know, top MMA guys on this, is the spacing, understanding distance, understanding rhythm, understanding movement and footwork, and then coming with you know, with the practical aspects of kick and how you would modify it slightly for the MMA world. But I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I see that I noticed. I go, man, he has a Taekwondo background. You can totally tell. You can
Yes.
tell by their movement. You can
Yeah.
tell by their kicks. You can tell the way they understand
The
spacing
distance and
or
the
drawing
footwork,
people
you
in
can
and going forward. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The distance and the footwork, you can tell 100% because I've noticed with like Muay Thai and, you know, because I train in all that right now. And if you play by their rules, like you said, the traditional sense, when you're fighting Muay Thai, then yeah, everything works. But the moment you blade yourself a little bit, get a wider stance, and just let them kind of burn themselves out because they can't hit you with anything because they have to try to close the distance, they end up burning themselves out. And
Right.
it changes the whole game up, which
That's right.
it's wild, you know. So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll see a little bit more of it.
Yeah. You're seeing people. You're seeing the evolution of MMA. It's pretty cool to see. You're seeing that people are starting to get, you know, pretty specialized, uh, multifaceted, and starting to look and see things that, you know, you got to be a good wrestler, you got to be a good, you know, kicker, you got to be a good, you know, puncher, and so you're starting to see the evolution and the maturity of the sport, which is cool to see. But yeah, I agree with you. One of the things that would separate Taekwondo from other sports is the footwork. and the spacing and the kicks. Yeah.
Diana, how do you feel you do in the UFC if you trained in MMA?
If I would have known about the sport, I mean, I think it would have been a perfect segue, just because I have that inner aggression, that fight in me, that I think if I were to play golf, I would be like the Happy Gilmore. I just, like that emotions and
Hitting your caddy and stuff? You'd be
oh
kicking
yeah,
your
no,
caddy,
not so much him, maybe
ass kicking him.
the floor or something. Yeah, like you just I like the idea of going back and trying golf just to keep me in that Zen mode. But I love fighting. I played volleyball growing up too, and that was so much fun just hitting that ball. But Taekwondo was I traveled internationally at age 14, so it was natural for me to put all my eggs in that basket and just follow my brothers. It wasn't like, oh, am I going to make the Olympic team? It was, when am I going to make the Olympic team? When am I going to be world champion? So martial arts and UFC or MMA would have been perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. We were pushing Diana to do, to be more volleyball, focused. We were kind of a little bit trying to go, why don't you just, focus on volleyball? I mean, you're so athletic. There is a certain, God-given, talent that we've been given. We were, born with very good, very talented, naturally. But we understood that, just talent is not going to do it, and so we also had the work ethic, and we also had the mindset of a fighter, and that beautiful combination of those three, where if you apply it in any sport, you'll be successful. Yeah, so I could have seen all of us be, in different sports and apply it like Mark was saying. My sport would have been either baseball or boxing. I love both. Yeah, I would have loved to, pursue that. And boxing is something that I have an affinity with because, I mean, I understand it. So, but yeah, that would be me. What about you, Steven? What would you?
I remember Dad telling us, "Hey, y'all want to do boxing?" I don't know if you remember, and I was like, "Ooh, maybe." I don't know why we ended up not doing it. But yeah, MMA. I mentioned last times because in Taekwondo you have a certain rules, obviously, like in any sport, but the rules are, you have to kick waist level and above, and you can only punch in the torso area. And so doing MMA, when I see it, I was like, man, there's so much more canvas that to play with. And so I think one of my strengths was being able to figure out what the other person's weaknesses or what the other person's challenges are. And once I found that, then that's where it would be my strike zone. And so knowing who you're going to fight, because a lot of times in Taekwondo, we didn't really know who we're going to fight until the day before competition. And so with MMA, I mean, you know right way ahead of time most of the time who you're going to be fighting. So then we could be tailored. Our whole, practice would be tailored to what this guy's weaknesses, what their challenges are, and really strike that. And so what I mentioned is like a lot of people are doing calf kicks now, but I remember us talking about, man, I would just focus on kicking that one front leg all day. Yeah. And slowly, then the person's not being able to step quite hard. He's not going to be able to punch as hard. He's going to be switching his stance. And once he switches his stance, then mentally that guy's not in his field anymore of what he's comfortable with. And so it'd be slowly breaking the person down. And so I would have enjoyed it a lot. And I remember Marky asking me, I was like, well, Mark, I think it would be really great and really good. I go, but just know that there's a whole lot of other things like wrestling and jiu-jitsu. And so you can go this route, but just know, how much, work that we took to be the best in Taekwondo. Well, just know that you don't have to be the best, but you're going to have to be pretty damn good at all these other disciplines. So if that's something you want to do, just take that into consideration.
So do you guys all still train? I mean, I'm imagine you guys are all still in great shape, it looks like. Is everybody still training? I mean, I'm sure you're not training even remotely how you used to be, but What's your training looking like these days? Are you still doing Taekwondo? Are you strength and conditioning? You know, everybody's goals changes, of course, with age. Kind of let's go through one by one, and I'm very intrigued in that as we do get through this aging process, how the goals change and how that kind of parallels to how our training strategy is. You know, for me, it's making sure that I actually, because I love to train every day. So I literally have to say, today is a day off, Zach. You're not doing anything but mobility and flexibility. That's it. And even then, I can't, if I walk into the gym, I have to like punch myself to keep myself away from what I want to do. So I would love to hear you guys' aspects on it, especially coming from, you know, 3 Olympians and the coach of 3 Olympians.
Go,
Dana?
go first. Oh, Dana, yeah.
Yeah, so that discipline and self-motivation is still with me to this day. I have 2 children. So I have to make it a priority for myself to wake up early, 5 a.m. to go work out, whether it's strength and conditioning or, treadmill sprints or going to infrared sauna. I do
Peloton.
that. Yeah,
Peloton.
Peloton. My husband and I rotate who's getting up to go to the gym that day. But if I love working out, if I could be a professional athlete my whole life, I would, because there's no better job. But I have to work out or else it gets my day started, and I'm not a better mother if I don't. So yeah, I work out every single day. As far as Taekwondo goes, I would love if I had a paddle holder here. My husband's not a great paddle holder, but I love kicking and punching, and I'm still flexible. But just like you said, Zach, sometimes I have to tell myself, okay, if you're tired, just sleep. And sometimes I have to take myself out of that whole, like, I'm training for the Olympics or the Worlds, that I don't need to, be as
Yeah,
crazy.
my wife always asks me, "What are you training for?" Like, it's like I don't know. I'm just trying. I'm just
No,
training.
I
You know.
mean, you want to be the best version of yourself. And, I hope that my kids are watching and emulating that, work ethic that, why am I training still? Because, it's part of your everyday living, and what you eat, how you think. You want to pass that down to your children. And so I'm just fortunate to have brothers that if for some reason my children are like, I can't get what I want to tell them without, like, yelling or being mean mom. I'm like, Steven, Jean, Mark, please talk to Liliana. She's nervous or something, but so I just, working out and training is everyday part of my life, and it will be till I'm in my 90s.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Yeah, like, we do a lot of strength and conditioning. We all love working out. Uh, we all love playing other sports. We've loved playing other sports since we were little. We played all sports. We played football, baseball, basketball. We loved it all. And still to this day, I can honestly say that nothing comes close to the feeling that I get than when I'm kicking something or I'm punching something. It's the most it's what my mind and my body and my spirit just craves, and we've never stopped kicking. We've never stopped, training. Um, you know, uh, we've loved it, and we've lived it, and we still live it. And that for me is the most important. And, I do my best to stay mobile and flexible. We do a lot of seminars and, and camps and things of that nature. And so we still have to lead by example. And so, like when you're kicking and you're demonstrating, you want to make sure that you're looking like you're kicking, not that you haven't done it for a long time. And so that motivates me, to continue and also uh, just because I enjoy it, and sparring. I mean, if I had the opportunity to be able to spar, we'd love that. and we haven't gotten together, you know, in a long time. You know, we've lived in California for a little while, and Steven's still in California, and Mark and, you know, Diana moved to Florida. But I would love to, you know, get back together and see if, you know, who'll win in a sparring match. I challenge you
Let's
guys.
see. I want to see it.
So
Yeah, I think we all have that inner drive within us, that competitiveness, and if we don't have it, you know, the goal of making a national team or competing at the Olympics, we manufacture. That's what I do, anyways. I manufacture me wanting or getting ready for a competition because that's what keeps me alive. That's what keeps me at my best. That's what gives me the edge. And just because you retire from competition doesn't mean something has to fill that void. Anyways, that's what, or you know, a lot of people just kind of, I kind of sense when people have been in the military or even in prison, in a sense, where that's what they know, and then they get out, and then they're like, okay, what do I do now? And I think a lot of athletes suffer once they
Identity. They've created their identity.
correct, and they stop competing and they retire. They're like, what do I do now? You know, their whole purpose or function. And so what I do is make sure that I have you know, those trainings where I'm mentally question, man, I can't do this anymore. Can I go? And I love that because it gets me back into that training, that feeling of training where I was pushing myself, where my mind was telling me, man, okay, you're doing good. No, I can do more. And so I love having those kind of workouts, and I make sure I have at least 3 of those per week. You know, sometimes you're like, okay, well, let me just do some maintenance stuff. But having at least 3 of those workouts is when I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm ready to fight tomorrow. And that's the kind of mentality. I was like, I could go in the gym, I could go compete tomorrow, and I'll be ready.
Have you ever thought about doing karate combat, Stephen? Have you seen any of theirs?
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it. And that's the other thing. It's funny because I did it for so long, and I'm happy because I think I mentioned it last time we spoke that I knew that one day this was going to end. We all spoke about it. Gene made sure to revel in this training. Be happy that you're so tired that all you're doing is focusing on this one thing, because there will be a time that this would be a, you know, a memory. And so why I say that is because I'm happy doing what I'm doing now, which is focusing on myself and not having to worry or think, man, what could I or should I or would have I done if X, Y, and Z? Because as I said, I competed till I was 38, I believe. And you know,
Which is an awesome feat. I mean, that's
I mean,
that's a
yeah,
real
the last
test.
Olympic team, I was, I think, 35
Yeah.
in 2016. So, you know, the first one I made was in when I was 21, and the last one was 35. And it was fun being able to be the young guy competing against older guys, and then becoming the older guy competing against young guys. And so all that was different motivation and challenges that I instilled for myself. And so, but to answer your question, yeah, you know, I've seen it. I think it's cool. I think it's great. It gives karate the limelight I think it deserves, because there's so many things on TV right now that get viewership, and I'm like, how is
Yeah.
ESPN, for example, and you know, karate combat.
Why am I watching synchronized swimming? You know, that
Yeah,
kind
I mean, I can appreciate, man, that's really hard. I can't be underwater like this, you know, popping my legs out, you know. But
Right.
I think a lot of people would also appreciate, you know, seeing Taekwondo or seeing karate, because martial arts is everywhere. It's in the entertainment world, it's in the movies, and you know, so many people, you know, going to college. Oh, you have a black belt. You know, it's something that people admire because they know all the discipline and the character development that it teaches you to achieve a, you know, a black belt. And so I think um, having karate combat it's great for the support and martial arts in general.
Yeah, it's kind of like an evolution of kickboxing in a way.
Yeah.
When I watched it, you know. And then Mark, what do you have, buddy?
Well, when we're training and competing, I felt like we're superhuman, and everybody around us is just like losers, to be blunt. And that feeling of just being superior physically, mentally was so awesome. So I tried to work out and stay fit and mobile to get something like that still. And so when I go into the office and see people, drinking their lattes or eating their donuts for breakfast, I just look at them and I'm like, nah, you're not at my level. So I have that mindset still where I want to feel that superhuman feeling. And I would love to spar if there was somebody I could spar with, because that was my favorite part of doing Taekwondo, obviously. But yeah, try to stay fit, try to stay strong, and not as intense as Steven. That's why he is who he is. But yeah, and also I have a baby boy, so I know I need to fight with him one day and make sure I show him who's boss up to a certain point. So that's a big motivation for me as well.
Yeah, the biggest competition though is going through life and living your best life and being the best version of yourself. And so that never stops. It doesn't matter how old you are, and you never retire from life. And so the mindset stays with you. It doesn't matter if you're 85 or if you're 15, 16 years old. And that's what's beautiful. And then everything becomes just relative, and so the aspiration to be able to navigate through life, to be as healthy as you possibly can, to inspire as many people as you can around you, to lift them up, to to be an example for the future. Those things are, in my opinion, um, if not more valuable, just as valuable as the experience that we've had as athletes. And so this chapter of our lives is exciting. It really is exciting. And we always prayed, and thought to ourselves that if we were ever in a position and have the platform to be able to inspire, that we would. And so yeah, so for us, that's so motivating. So yeah, so do we miss competition? Do we miss being at the top level? Absolutely. But I also don't quite miss also the all the extreme pressure that we were under, especially me, because as a coach, your athletes win, the athletes are amazing. When they lose, yeah, we gotta talk to the coach. He did something wrong. And so it was I didn't get into coaching for the glamour of it. I got into coaching because I really love teaching, and I love creating a model, being creative, solving the puzzle, and being able to implement the things that we learn, and see you know if it became a success or not, and if it wasn't, to go back to a drawing board. But our experiences has taught us to be resilient, to have the mindset necessary to be the best that we can possibly be in whatever chapter of our lives that we are, and to understand that there are a lot of variables that can come to winning. It's just not being the best sometimes. There's a lot of other things that have to be in place for that to happen. And so being at the Olympic level, it also taught us that you can have that single mind focused on something, and if you do everything that you're supposed to do, that you do increase your chances of success. And so that stayed with us, and continues to stay with us, and continues to foster in us to be able to to be the best version of ourselves.
So what martial arts movies may have helped motivate you guys along the way? Even though I know you had the whole family dynamic, and I'm sure, Gene, you were motivating them. You didn't need movies, but along the way, did any martial arts action stars, any martial arts particular movies where you kind of, oh yeah, it was a little bit of motivation along the way?
Are you kidding me? No, we're martial arts nerds. That's what people don't know. We try not to, like, say that too much, because there's a certain level of, like, the sports aspect of it that we that we chose. But man, our fondest memories were sitting around on Sundays or Saturdays, I think it was, and sitting around and watching those old kung fu movies, those old movies where you know the words didn't really sync up with the lip, and you're like, that bastard, that kind of thing, yeah. And then I'm looking at that going, dude, that's so cool. They,
Yeah.
and then seeing, all the effects of like martial arts. And I mean, we loved it. We absolutely loved it. And like, that was the original superheroes for us. We'd rather watch that, than Superman, because we felt that was more attainable. That there was a humanity aspect of that we felt that we could achieve, and so that's what was it called? Saturday, what, Kung Fu Theater was it called?
Kung Fu Theater. It had all
That's
those old
right.
Shaw Brothers and Golden Harvest movies where you see the lips move and then you hear some quirky voice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we love that, and Bloodsport was amazing.
Best of the best.
Best and the best,
Best.
which really related to our Taekwondo, and so
When we ask this question, it's like, it's always the same answers. We ask every single person. It's always best of the best, Bloodsport, Jean-Claude Van Damme, that kind of thing. I love hearing it. I love it.
absolutely.
I think we asked Stephen this the last day. But Gene, I'm going to ask you, and anybody feel free to jump in. If you had one or two actors from what I refer to the golden age of martial arts action move, when there were real martial artists doing real martial arts things and techniques and so on and so forth. If you had one or two actors you had to pull from the 90s, the 90s, the 80s, even the early to mid 2000s, that you would say, give me 6 months with this guy and he'd have a good shot at national level and I could take him all the way to the Olympics potentially. Who would they be, Gene?
Assuming that they were coachable.
Yeah, we're assuming they're coachable, but did you look and go, he's got potential. If he's coachable and everything fits in, I could do that. I could get this guy all the way.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
For sure. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
Gene, I thought you were going to say Steven
I said that
Seagal.
too.
He
Who?
taught this guy how to throw his first kick.
Yeah,
Jean-Claude.
Jean-Claude taught Chingwan here.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Jingwan's been training with me since he was 3, so he just came from school, so that's why he's with us. And he just tested for his first degree black belt in the senior Kempo karate curriculum.
Congratulations.
This is a very, very, probably the most famous Taekwondo family in the world. They're all brothers and sisters, and this is the boss at the corner, and he trained them. Say hi.
Hello.
How you doing? How are you?
Jingwan,
He's
throw
a
us
little guy.
a roundhouse, Jingwan. Step back and throw us a nice kick.
Go on, step
Come
back.
on, buddy.
Go on, go. Here, come on. Here.
There's not enough space in here.
Well, make space. Get that knee up.
Ooh,
They
nice.
look like Jean-Claude Van Damme, not gonna lie.
Nice.
Yeah,
The funny thing, we were in Equinox in 2018. He was only 3. And of course, he's too young. He doesn't remember, but we have the pictures and the video. And of course, Van Damme gets down and goes, oh. And I said to Jingwan, throw a round kick. And Jingwan threw a round kick. And Jean-Claude goes, hey, James, he throws a better round kick than I do now. But yeah, it's interesting that you say Jean-Claude Van Damme, because he has great respect for all martial artists, but he really has great respect for great kickers.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. Just to delve into that a little bit. Why do you say Jean-Claude Van Damme? I think the reasons are obvious, but I want to hear, because I know you're going to come at it from a very specific point of view. So just maybe fill us in a little bit on that, because it's interesting. It's easy to throw out a name, but why?
Yeah. I loved his technique. I really did. I felt like it was I mean, it's applicable, especially now in today's Taekwondo. Very applicable. The front leg was beautiful. His flexibility, his athleticism. You could tell his athleticism with the way he kicked, the control that he had. To be able to go, face multiple times and go into the body and body face. And so from that standpoint, that's what made me think about Jean-Claude Van Damme. But Steve, who did you think I said I was going to pick?
No. That I said that's who I picked as well.
That's who Steven
Oh,
said.
No, I thought you were going to say Steven Seagal, Gene.
So, Mark, a question for you: Who would you pick?
Oh, Jean-Claude Van Damme popped in my head, but I thought Gene was going to say Steven Seagal because he admired Steven Seagal so much.
Yeah,
That's a
Well,
joke.
James knows
That's a
Stephen
joke.
too very well.
Oh, okay. Well,
Stephen, no, actually, Stephen, I know Stephen. Stephen's a great martial artist.
okay. Well, actually, I saw a documentary, not a documentary, I saw a YouTube video on him recently. And a lot of people, don't say a lot of flattering things about him, but I saw him on this YouTube video and his, what the techniques that he performs, pretty amazing. And he also has this mentality that I never saw in the videos or the movies that I watched as a young kid. But this YouTube video, I forgot the name of the guy who interviewed him. I think,
It's the karate guy, right, Mark?
yeah, he's like German
Yeah.
or
Yeah, it's such
something.
that's a great
Yeah,
snippet.
I saw him visit Steven Seagal, and that was I have a lot more respect for Steven Seagal. But anyway, yeah, Jean-Claude Van Damme is the guy I thought too because his flexibility is amazing. His like Gene said, his technique and he has a lot of self-confidence, I think, and mentality and mental toughness is
Well,
everything.
I mean, if the story is true, I mean, I've heard how he got into Hollywood was just going and recognizing where directors or producers or what of movies would be, and then he would just start kicking and showing his kicks. And if that's true, like, again, I don't know if it's true or not. That just shows that, I mean, he was driven, and when somebody's driven like that, I mean, what's going to stop them? They're going to do anything and everything to be successful. And so that's why I also mentioned him, because apart from the physicalities, is that mindset of doing whatever you need to do to make it happen.
Yeah, he went into Canon Films, and cut a long story short, he gets into the office and he takes off his shirt and he grabs two chairs and he does the splits in front of Menachem Golan. And I actually know the gentleman that worked for Canon at the time that was in the office that day. He
Wow.
says, and I said, how was he? Goes, it was just insane. He said he walked in, he was very nice, very good looking, very well built, beautiful skin, lovely tanned, everything. He said he had a tight shirt with short sleeve, bulging arms. He just popped off the shirt. He said, Menachem, look. And he grabbed a chair, and Menachem, he's a businessman. He doesn't think about splits. He thinks about how much, if I spend $1, do I make $10? And he's just kind of looking, and he looks, and Jean-Claude pulled, and he did the split. He balanced himself on the desk and did the splits and then folded his arms. And Menachem looked over the desk at him and went, that's very impressive. Karen, bring me blood sport.
Wow, what a cool story.
That's a real
Wow.
story. And then he also met him at a restaurant on La Cienega Boulevard, which is a boulevard here in West Hollywood. And he met him at a restaurant. He jumped up and spun around and threw a kick over his head and said, you remember me from Milan? Menachem didn't, but he gave him the restaurant happened before the office. That's when Menachem gave him his card, and that's how he ended up in the office. But yeah, so you're right, Stephen. Yes, he had the beauty, he had the physique, he had all the physicalities, and a lot of people have physicalities, but he had the mindset. He was going to become a movie star, or he was going to die trying.
Mm,
And it kind of reminds me of you guys when you say about the mindset. You're ready. Even when you were preparing or training in a local tournament, you were really preparing for the Olympics
that's right.
in your
I,
head.
I forgot which general it was. I don't know if it was Alexander the Great or not, but it sparked a memory of Van Damme in our story, where they would go and they were going to invade a country, and then they burned their own ships. I don't know if I mentioned it last time, but that mindset is what I was all about. I wasn't, you know, I put, like Diana said, put all your eggs in one basket. It wasn't like, okay, well, if this doesn't work out, then we have plan B, plan C. No, this is the plan, and we're going to do anything and everything to make it work. And I think we all had that same kind of mentality, and that's where that magic really, really happened. Because when you get all these people who have that drive, who have that mentality, who have that courage, who have that discipline, and that work ethic, all doing it, then man, when you step into that mat, you're like, okay, I feel it. It's hard to put into words, but you felt it. And so that's is that tenacity. Talking about Van Damme, and talk about anyone who achieves a certain level of success, has to have that kind of intangible and I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. Diana, who for you in film?
Well, Van Damme came to mind, but like Jackie Chan, I mean, he does all the cool, fun, spinning moves that I think
He does
if
all his own stunts too.
yeah, if Gene channeled that, I mean, if Jackie Chan's older than you, right, Gene?
A little bit.
Yeah, a couple
No,
of
if he had
hours.
him younger, I think he would have, been a top athlete, Taekwondo athlete. But going off of, mental toughness and stuff and, where we're at today, just like setting yourself apart, like Mark was telling us, but also like, let's just say, Steven, I text Steven and I text Gene and Mark, I'm like, hey, I'm doing a 3-day fast. Y'all want to join? And so just even that, like how many people, if you've ever asked, have you ever done a 3-day fast? And they're like, I can never do that. Like, that's a majority of people, and for me that's like a challenge. And so I love challenging myself, day in and day out. And it's like I said, you just want to live like that and carry on what you've learned throughout your sporting athletic career and channel it into every day.
So true. I gotta ask this. Does everybody still have the elite tattoo?
I
Yeah.
do. Yep.
Everybody still got
There we go.
there you
Boom.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it, but it's there.
Oh, and you got Olympic
Yeah, we
ones,
need
too.
to touch it up a little bit, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
That's awesome. That
Yeah.
is phenomenal. Well, guys, I appreciate you so
Zach,
much coming
one
on.
thing
Oh, you had a
that's so-
question?
Yeah, sit up here. I'd like sit up straight. Pull your chair. Sit up straight. I had Gene or anybody feel to chime in here. If you were to give this little beast here some good advice regarding his martial arts and his schooling and everything, what would it be?
great question. What I would say is every time you get the opportunity of doing martial arts, to really, really live it, to enjoy it, and to apply it in every aspect of your life, because it is one of the best educations that you'll ever get. Enjoy it, and something that you just don't do one day and then you stop. You do it a lifetime because you never stop learning.
Yeah, and enjoy it, like Gene said, enjoy it, and take pride in being the best that you can possibly be in everything that you do. That take pride, and you're always gonna, and that's what builds up your confidence and builds up being courageous, is knowing that you're doing all the things that you're supposed to do. I know you have your mother, your father, your coaches, your instructors, but be driven. Don't only do it when somebody's looking at you, when your instructor is telling you, oh, kick fast, and then you kick fast, but you kick fast all the time, even when no one's looking, because the most important person that you have to look in the mirror every single day is yourself. And you can have a smile on your face, look yourself in the mirror going, you know what, I'm doing everything I can to be the very best.
Mhm.
And just to
What
add
say
to
you, Mikey?
Stephen and Gene's perspective, which is awesome. Just thank God for the opportunity he's given you to just be in martial arts and to have guidance like from James and from the people that love you, and just take that to heart and just be grateful that God's given you the opportunity to realize your dreams, and like Stephen said, be the best you can be, and just appreciate every moment that you're able to achieve what you're going to achieve, and again, just thank God and have faith in your life.
Amen.
Yep, and enjoy it. Always have a smile on your face doing what you do. Give your 100%. And, we have 2 legs, 2 arms. Be grateful and just go out there and have fun and do what you do and enjoy it 100% all the time.
Yeah.
When
How old are you? How old? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
No, one thing I was gonna say, when I was a little kid, I remember being really tired, and my body was sore, but then my brother and my father would tell me, you know what, Stephen, be happy, have a smile, because your body's getting stronger. And each and every time that you get sore, you get tired, that's the time that you're getting better. And so embrace that moment, because every time you feel that, instead of going, oh, I feel this way, go, oh yes, I'm feeling this, because you know you're getting better for it.
Your muscles are growing.
Yeah. The thing I was going to say is something that that resonates with me, and I think I did it, but I never articulated like Stephen has. And how old are you?
11.
11. Yeah. So think of yourself when you're 20, 30, and beyond. And think of yourself when you're that age, and then look back at your age now and think of where you want to be. Because then when you do that, then you set goals, then you start to hold yourself accountable, and then you start to think, I want my future self to be proud of my younger self.
Yes.
And that, you know, and it's a lot right now to tell, you know, to really think about, but it's one of the best things that that I've heard Stephen say. You know, you're 10 years from now, you're going to go, man, I remember that conversation I had with the Lopez family, and it really served me well. And you're going to pass that information down to the people that look up to you someday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very welcome.
Guys, I appreciate you guys come on. It's been an absolute honor, you know, sharing the screen with you guys. Me and James were excited about this one. We were excited just to get Steven, and then now to get all four of you guys it's just been phenomenal.
Well,
Hearing your
thank you for
mindset,
having us.
everything, you know, has been beautiful. So you guys are all great athletes, but even better human beings, and I love that, you know.
Appreciate that, Zach.
Yeah,
You're
Gene,
that-
Mark, and Diana, pleasure meeting you guys. Stephen, nice seeing you again.
Nice
And
seeing
yes,
you.
you are your energy, and I know we're not in the same room, but I can feel your energy. You're all really good people, and that's what's important for character. And
Thank you
thank
so
you for
much.
coming on and taking the time. Really
No,
appreciate it.
thank you. And you know,
Thank you for
I
your
wish you,
advice to Jingwon.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for your advice to Jingwon.
Absolutely. And, you know, thank you for having us on your podcast. We're grateful and appreciative, and we wish all of you huge success. And I'm also, please stay in touch with us and let me know how you guys are going. And, you know, we want to see you guys really spreading the positive vibes to not just the martial arts community, but everyone who can learn, you know, martial arts and be an example.
Absolutely, man.
100%, and we'll have you guys on again in the future at some point.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and
So much.
Steven, you're close by, man. We got to have you come by the gym sometime in
Yeah,
LA.
Stephen, some good Chinese food up the street right here if you like it.
Yeah,
I
buddy.
love Chinese food.
Okay, let's do it.
All
All
right,
right,
looking
guys.
forward
Well,
to
it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking,
you.
you know, 2 hours out of your day. We really appreciate it. So
Thank you.
we'll
See you
see you
guys.
soon. God bless.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Likewise.
Thank you so much.